Remember that time about 3 years ago when I was building a MiG-21 and it got destroyed by my daughter? Well, it's happened again, and this time it happened to Arma's Hawker Hurricane Mark 1 in 1/48 scale. But before I get into the build, I would like to take a moment to thank Sunward Hobbies again for supplying all the paints and materials needed to build at this bench. If you need plastic models, knives, accessories, or if you want to do gaming, dioramas, artistry paints, or other hobbies, you can get it all at their stores. You can even get stuff to build rockets. Just be careful how big you make those rockets because there might be some outside powers that get concerned with that, and then things get kind of complicated from there. And now, onto the build.
If you've been following this channel for a while now, you know that I'm a big fan of the Hawker Hurricane, and this will be the third time I've built one on the channel. Technically the fourth. And it's going to be the year of the Hurricane because there's also the Kotari Hurricane coming in 1/32 down the road, but we'll burn that bridge when we get to it. One thing that does have me excited here about the Arma's Hurricane is in Step 19, I can see that there's going to be some Canadian variants released in the future. And that oil ring there, that's a Canadian invention for the Hurry. One key thing that Arma Hobbies does that I'm actually a very big fan of is they include 3D parts for their kits that you can download online and print off. I did receive some in this kit, but they specifically asked me not to review the ones that came with it. But having printed those off for the P39 last year, they did fit really well and added a lot of detail to the kit. It's a very interesting take on aftermarket for your kit because you don't have to spend more money from another producer to get them. You can just get them yourself and you have the link right in the instructions. Building this kit, it goes together pretty much identically to the Mark II Hurricane I built 2 years ago. A lot of the sprues are the same for the internals, and the really only update we get is the fuselage halves and the wings. So this Mark I Hurricane does come with the metal wing. To keep painting a little bit simpler and to keep things moving quickly at the bench, I assembled everything in sub-assemblies before paint, and that sped the process up quite a bit. The interior of the Hawker Hurricane is actually quite complicated with the framework, the controls, and cables that are all visible, but Arma does a really good job of making this easy to assemble and keeping it looking interesting without things being too hard to put together. The base kit looks really good in the cockpit, but if you want to easily punch it up, you just need some lead wire and some super glue, and you can easily do that. For my first build of this kit, I wanted to keep things simple, so I ended up not adding in any of the extra detail. But you'll see later on during the second attempt, I did choose to do that. Here you can see me not reviewing the 3D printed part by painting it and showing off all the details of the harness, buckles, and the seat itself. It may look sloppy right now with that little bit of overpaint on there, but my trick for detail painting is to lay down a lacquer base and then put acrylics on top of it. That way it's very easy to get clean off the acrylics without damaging the paint beneath. The gear bay on this kit is very finely detailed as well, and you could really make it pop with some lead wire. And if you wanted to see someone else do that, you can check out Detail Scale Model on YouTube. He did an excellent job adding all the extra details to the Hurricane, and you can see that he is a big fan of the aircraft. One criticism to the first release of the Mark II Hurricane from Arma was that the landing lights were missing the lens cover detail. You still see that on the sprues in this kit, however they do include 3D printed parts online that you can use to update them. They drop right into place with no modifications needed to the kit. The only fit issue I had with this kit was at the front of the wings where they join. It had quite a bit of a gap, but the way this wing is designed and put together, it's actually easy to fill with some super glue and sand flush. It just takes a few minutes to do this, and the nice thing about super glue is I don't have to worry about that shrinking and creating a ghost seam later on. SD Scale Models also showed this in his excellent build review of the aircraft, so I don't think it was something that I did. I think it's a problem with the kit itself. The decal for the instrument panel fits really well. You just need to cut it into several sections to get it to sit cleanly within the bezels. This kit does go together very quickly, so within a few hours you have the cockpit done and the fuselage halves ready to go together. One of the biggest tips I can give you for this kit is to take the time to clean up the wing join before adding it onto the fuselage. This lets you manipulate the wing very easily and makes cleanup very simple. If you know me as a modeler, you know that I'm a big fan of doing beaten up, weathered aircraft, so naturally, the Royal Navy Hurricane in this kit was the choice that I was going to build. Real-world references show that aircraft was heavily chipped, damaged, touched up, repainted, with no real care given to the overall look of the aircraft. And no, I did not misspeak. This is not the Sea Hurricane I am building, but a land-based Hurry. Now, you may be wondering, why was the Royal Navy operating those? And thanks for asking. These were the aircraft that were used to train the pilots that were going to go aboard the catapult ships used to escort convoys. In order to battle the Focke-Wulf Condors that would be tracking convoys, the Royal Navy put catapults on merchant vessels so you could shoot off these Hurricanes on a one-way mission to intercept those aircraft. Now you're probably asking yourself, well, after the aircraft was shot off the ship, where did it land afterwards? And that's the neat thing. They didn't. Once airborne, the pilot knew that his options were either bail out, ditch next to the convoy, or attempt a landing in the Soviet Union. And I can guarantee you right now, the Royal Navy was not spending time and money or resources painting the aircraft that was going to end up destroyed at the end of that single flight. The cool thing about this livery is that this aircraft was a hack, and what that means is it's put together with parts from other aircraft, and it's a real challenge to keep in service. So you're going to see actual RAF painted panels on the Royal Navy aircraft. This requires a lot of masking and freehanding, but the nice thing about the AK real colors I was using on this first attempt is that they're very easy to paint with. I also thinned them with rubbing alcohol, which made the paint very delicate and it was going to be very easy to chip off afterwards. One thing about the AK colors though, I'm not sure I like the contrast between the slate gray and the extra dark sea gray. I find it doesn't really pop enough. So this time around, I wasn't a huge fan of the colors. But having said that, I needed something that looked drastically different from the other Hurricanes on the shelf. Oddly enough, this ended up looking like a Hurricane from the Hellenic Air Force. With the paint dried, it was time to make it wet with a brush and then start chipping away the acrylic AK paint on top of the silver lacquer paint. I was only able to find 3 reference photos of this aircraft, and all 3 of them showed that leading edge of the wing and the wing root and even the top of the nose were heavily chipped. It is a little difficult to get the paint to start the chip, but once it is chipping and you can get the water under the paint, it starts to lift off a lot easier. And then you start getting into that area where it's very easy to overdo it. If you're looking to add more specific chips or larger chips, one thing I'll use is actual sewing needles or toothpicks that have been sharpened. This allows you to chip off the top layers of paint, leaving the lacquer silver underneath. There are a few large chips on the aircraft that I wanted to specifically replicate, so this was the best way to do it. Once I was happy with all the chipping, I then came in with some darker mixes of the original paint just to add those touch-ups for corrosion control. To get this effect, you have to thin down the paint a little bit more than usual, but you have to be very careful because if you thin it too much, you get a little bit of runs. What I really enjoyed about this livery is that there's so many touch-ups with different color paints, it makes this aircraft really interesting. You can tell the ground crew was at one point just grabbing whatever colors they could find to spray on the aircraft. One of the few times I'll put a lacquer gloss coat down before decals is when I've used the AK Real Color paints. I find that any decal solution put right on top of the AK paints will leave just some tide marks and will actually change the color of the paint underneath. You definitely have to use a lot of setting solutions to get these decals to go down over the raised rivets, but generally you won't have any problems with them. With the decals down, it was time to move into the oil work. And then this happened. My 11-year-old had 2 of his friends over and were playing in the basement and managed to hit the wall so hard on the opposite side of my modeling area that they knocked the monitor down onto the model. This was 3 weeks out from HeritageCon where I planned on taking the model, so I was pretty upset. But then the coolest thing that could have possibly happened. Arma sent me an email saying, hey, we just saw what happened to your model on your social media on Facebook, and we've already sent out another copy to you. And I actually had this model in my hands 7 days after the kit got broken. I had no issue buying another replacement for myself because it was no fault of Arma, but they sent it out with no questions asked. Now I was super motivated to do an even better job with the second build, so you're going to notice there's a lot more details added this time around. The map case in the cockpit, you get the detail from a decal, but I chose to make it using tape. Then the next step of that motivation was to add all the wiring into the cockpit using some reference material I have in my house. This was all done with lead wire, black super glue, and then it was cleaned up with debonder. It definitely felt like Groundhog Day building the same kit right after, but I was so inspired to do a better job the second time around that I actually came in with the airbrush and added some fake highlights just to make it look like there was more light getting into the cockpit and then get some more detail to pop. A quick pass of some light dry brushing ensures that these details on the side of the cockpit do not go unmissed. This was definitely a more artistic approach this time around with some higher contrast with pin washes, but I actually quite enjoyed it for a change. This time around, instead of having to mess with decals, Arma also included an aftermarket Yoo-Hoo panel for me to use in the kit, and the detail in this was amazing. I've never used any Yoo-Hoo products before, but if this is their quality, I definitely recommend them. To make the cockpit easier to paint, I built it as a sub-assembly but left the left-hand side tubing off, that way it could be glued afterwards. Then the back bulkhead just drops into place, and I'm ready to close the fuselage halves again. Then the Mr. Color 8 silver was laid down again to set the base for the chipping. After the silver dried, I fired on 2 thin coats of hairspray. I try to do this from a distance that the hairspray dries before it hits the model, and I do not want this to bead up. If the hairspray goes on too wet, you're going to lose the paint and sheets, and you're not going to have a very realistic look. I wanted the colors to have some more depth this time, so I did some sandwich shading using different khakis and yellows just to have the green and gray really pop. Then it was all blended together with some thin coats of Vallejo Air. Yes, you heard me right, Vallejo Air, a color I've not used for about 5 or 6 years. The sandwich shading had been done underneath with lacquer paints, but then when I referenced my Corsair I built as one of my first builds on this channel, I realized that I really liked how those 2 Vallejo colors went together, so I decided to dig those out and reuse them. They had a little bit more contrast than the AK take on those paints. Using the mask template provided by Arma on their website for their 1/72nd scale Hurricanes, I scaled it up to 1/48 and put it into my silhouette cutter. I then stuck some pieces of tape underneath to create a little bit of a gap to get that soft edge camo that I wanted. One of the coolest things about this paint job is the replacement panels are from both an A-type camo and a B-type camo from RAF Hurricanes, so you get to use both styles. Anytime I try to do this camo freehand, I always end up with an uneven demarcation line, and I'm not ever a fan of that happening. I then repeat the process of the sandwich shading for the slate gray, and then move in with another blend layer using Vallejo's paints. When using paint masks for a soft edge camo, you have to make sure you're shooting across the mask and not into it. If you shoot into it, you end up with losing that soft demarcation line and you lose the effect you're looking for. Now pulling the masks off, you can see that these 2 colors go together a lot better than the AK colors. Unfortunately, because I was trying to save time and only use a little bit of tape, there's a lot of areas that had to be touched up afterwards. So I came in with my PS270 and tidied up that line. Then the process was repeated for the panels that had been donated off of RAF Hurricane. When doing the RAF panels, I found that the green from Mr. Hobby was too dark and it almost clashed with the slate gray green from Vallejo. So I ended up going back to the AK green because it was a lot brighter and it stood out quite a bit more. For the non-standard patches on top of the wings, I used Tamiya's medium C gray, cut with a little bit of buff. I then laid down the template with an AK pencil and then filled it in with the airbrush. Now it was time to come in and start the chipping again, and this time it was a lot harder to chip the aircraft because I was working with a lot of lacquer paints. The side effect of that though is that you get some really nice micro chips and a lot more realistic chipping. With the hairspray underneath, once the lacquer paint had been cracked through, it really started to lift and it was very easy to get the paint to chip. I then refined the chipping even more by using a 000 brush with some AK silver paint and just barely touching it into the areas I wanted it to be more chipping. With a 000 brush, you have a lot more control over where those chips appear. With the pin wash this time on the Hurricane, however, I only applied it to the first third of the wing before I get to the raised details. When I did Arma's Mark II Hurricane, I found it was hard to clean up the wash around the raised rivets, and it ended up leaving me with a really weird effect I didn't like. So this time around, the pin wash was very controlled. Finally, the time had arrived for the oil paints to go on and to start washing the paint out a little bit more where the crew would be walking and have a lot more wear. It's also a great way to add more depth to the paint. My favorite part of this entire build was when I put a few photos of the build up in progress on my Facebook page and I had someone tell me that I had overdone the chipping. And then I put a picture as a reply of the actual aircraft I was doing. And then he accused me of using AI to colorize the photo. Because yes, I have that amount of time on my hands that I'm going to use AI to Photoshop photos to match the weathering I want to do, rather than just use the photos I like and use those as reference. I mean, I guess I've been doing this wrong the entire time. Some people just can't even get out of their own way. Now that the oil work had been done on the model, it was time to start with the exhausts. The exhaust pipes themselves are always an area I feel like I need to do better on. So this time around, I was going to play around with some acrylic paints, using some different grays and browns and rust tones, and different thinning just to make them blend a little bit more together and look closer to the real thing. What I'm trying to recreate here is not rusty looking exhaust, because exhausts on the Merlin don't look like they rust to me. It looks like it's more of a brownish metal that's been faded with heat over time. So once I was happy with all the sponge work and the acrylics, I then used some industrial earth oil paint to try to do a few blend layers and tie it all together. In the end, I was happy with how that looked and felt like I had a pretty good recipe to do exhaust for the Merlin. Keep in mind, this is also super zoomed in. And a quick reminder, this is also not me reviewing the 3D parts like I was told not to. Sorry, Arma. A quick dark brown pin wash made the exhaust pop a little bit more. And then I added in some neutral gray oil paints to the exhaust staining, which was done with Tamiya red brown and rubber black mixed together. One of the greatest things about my trip to Duxford last year is the fact I have lots of reference photos of the exhaust staining on aircraft that actually fly. Another last minute addition was adding the grab handles to the side of the canopy by using some copper wire and the photo etched bending tool just to make sure they were even. They were then super glued to the canopy, primed with some Mr. Metal primer, and then painted this slate gray. One last thing I added to the kit was a 3D printed Spitfire mirror. This looked a little bit closer to what I had in the reference photos for this Hurricane, so I decided to add it because it had a lot more detail than the kit part. And with that, the Hurricane was finally finished and ready to go to the photo booth and make its way to Heritage Con. That's going to be it for this episode. I really appreciate everybody's patience waiting for me to get another video up. Unfortunately, I had this channel hacked by Russians back in January, and that really put a big damper on everything. It took about a month and a half to get the channel itself back. So again, thank you for your patience. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a comment, like, subscribe to the channel because your support helps me continue to put out my videos. I'm also trying to push to visit SMC in 2026, so you're probably going to see a lot more videos coming out this year. That's it for now. This is The Model Guy, and I'll see you next time.